That's right.
Do it.
It's a fun time.
It's a great time. Yeah, scoopfest.com. Come check it out.
.com. I just helped you guys write a jingle. You can use that if you want.
Copyright.
Thank you, Jim.
Screaming
We'll use
.com into the microphone. That'll sell a lot of tickets.
This episode is made possible by our TheraPartners, Dirty B, Myra, and Pickett.
Pickett!
From fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada, this is Pod Therapy. Real people, real problems, and real therapists. You can submit your questions anonymously at podtherapy.net or email us at podtherapyguys@gmail.com. Broadcasting from the churn, that's Jim, that's Whitney, I'm Nick. It's time for some Pod Therapy.
It's a rainy day.
It is a very
beautiful wintry
It was kinda
Las
nice.
Vegas.
And yesterday.
Man, it is the biggest flex whenever you turn on the Weather Channel and you just see how fucking awesome Las Vegas is compared to the rest of the shitty United States. And they're like digging out football stadiums in New York. And we're sitting around, it's like 50 degrees.
Yeah.
Like just t-shirt.
Yeah.
Like, this is great.
It was really challenging working with my Oregon clients last week. They're all like, there's no power. It's 9 degrees.
Oh,
and
no.
like freezing rain is turning to ice on all the roads. You can't even walk because you'll slip. Like, I'm like,
Meanwhile,
like, I don't
Whitney's
know.
like, I'm a little warm.
I know. I was like,
Yeah, sorry, I'm just going to take off this.
I know. Like one of them started off, I don't know what the weather is like there, but I'm like, don't ask.
You don't want to know.
You don't want to know. Sorry.
It's funny because we have we have this for work, this little, I guess, kind of Zoom thing that we do. It's almost, I refer to it as like the Butterball Hotline, where it's like it's the third Friday of every month. Where if anybody has any questions about
Butterballs.
About specifically this assessment tool that we use, they can jump in and we just answer questions for an hour. And we always get people from, Montana, a lot of people from South Dakota, Minnesota, stuff like that. So my favorite thing to do is be like, it's please keep us in your thoughts and prayers. It got really cold. We're down.
It was raining a little
bit. We're
bit.
down to 58 degrees.
Yeah.
So
We left
got
the
a
water
quarter
running.
of an inch of rain.
Yeah. We left all
It's
the
rough
water
out
running.
there.
down
Very
there.
dangerous to leave your house.
Because the rain was not enough for our plans. So we did have to,
In fairness, I did have to run errands around town today. I kind of crisscrossed the town today.
Yeah.
And there were like 5 different car accidents
Oh,
that
yeah.
I drove past.
Yeah.
Because the rain does just make the roads here slick as fuck.
Yes.
Because nothing washes anything off of it. It's
Yeah.
just sitting there waiting for the
just
rain
oil.
to bring it all up to
I
the
don't
surface.
think it's fair that everybody says, "Oh, the accidents are because we don't know how to drive in the rain." That's not the problem. It's a goddamn Crisco out there. Like the roads are just grease.
Well,
It's a little column A, a little column B.
It's a little bit of both. Because it's the same thing in Iowa, too. Like the first snowfall.
the same everywhere.
Yeah, first snowfall in Iowa, it was always just like people forgot how to drive in it. And it's like, okay, yeah, it's slick. Just slow down and get off your phone, and you're going to be fine.
Right.
How can we say that Las Vegas is filled with transplants, that everybody here is from somewhere else, and yet this community doesn't know how to drive in the rain, when we in Phoenix would be the only places that do not get rain? So if you're from anywhere else, like in this room, quick poll, all of you are from places where you learn to drive in the rain. Mm-hmm. I grew up here, but I figured out how to drive in the rain. My point is...
So what's your point?
It's the pollution, man. Like, it's the oil on the roads.
I think you just proved your point,
I don't
or
know.
our point.
I forgot where I was going.
It's that too.
Yeah.
That's not helping.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's also people don't know how to drive in the rain. People forget how to do it.
Yeah.
My point is, you know what? Actually, I'd like to retract my previous point. I want to blame the Californians. They're the problem. I think that
always
they
fun
should
to
That's
do.
a popular thing to do.
Yeah.
They raise
very
our
popular.
insurance rates on our cars because they all drive like idiots. They just hit everything.
That is the common theme in Las Vegas.
is.
Everyone hates
I
California.
was the last person to move here when it was cool, and everybody who moved here after me is
You got to pull the ladder up behind you.
Yeah.
Plug the door. Once Nick crossed, we were like, all right, that's the last one.
Yeah.
Nobody
After
else.
June
We're
15th,
closed.
2012, everybody who came after that
No.
is an asshole.
Yeah.
But they're all making my home value go up.
Yeah.
So in that sense, I like them.
Yeah. Thank you, California.
Jacob's rubbing it in still.
Yep. Now I'm just
Salt deep
just gonna
in
sit
those
here in my
wounds.
little rental.
Yeah. Watching that arrow go up.
Yep. So happy for you, Jacob.
Thank you,
Interest rates are starting to come down a little bit, though.
Yeah, they are.
So you got that going for you,
Yeah.
which is nice.
Yeah. Yeah, you could always go move somewhere else, too. That's an option.
Where?
Not here. I don't care. Get out. So my point is you got here too late, okay? Get the hell out. We don't want your people around here no more. Damn Iowans. Iowa, though, cold as shit. I was looking at weather. Oh, my God, dude. I don't realize how cold
so
it
here's
is
the
out there.
thing. Okay, so I was just showing Whitney this, and I actually sent it to you on Instagram.
The dick pics?
I was
No,
knew you
my,
were going to say that. I was like, I know dick pics are going to come.
My sister's friend, who I mentioned in a previous episode, that's down in Antarctica.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she just posted a video of the Antarctica softball game.
Oh.
And so it's 32 degrees down there,
That's
and they're playing
tolerable.
softball.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was like, it looks
And
warm
it's-
there. He's like, it is.
Yeah.
It's 32.
Yeah.
It's like,
So I mean,
Wow.
like compared to what it is in Iowa, which is
Yeah.
like negative 38,
what
and
the
it feels like
hell?
temperature.
Oh my!
Insane.
I can't
crazy.
fathom that. You know what my favorite thing is watching on like Instagram or YouTube Shorts is when people go outside in those like temperatures and they throw hot water in the air and then it all freezes.
Oh
I'm
my
like,
gosh.
I want to do that kind of someday, not
Wow.
today. But
Yeah, it's exciting for 2 seconds.
yeah,
and then, then
totally. Then you're like, I'm done with that.
You're completely over it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I should point out that I'm just going to play it from my phone. Here we are talking about the weather. Alec wrote us a jingle for the weather. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit it play. And it is, wants to play through an app.
It's Jim
I don't know how to
talking.
do
Are
that.
you going to play the jingle that I have that Alec wrote about the weather?
He wrote a new
Everybody
one.
shut up.
Las Vegas weather's about to suck a dick. That's the jam. Suck a dick. He wrote a new one that is not
a bop.
the
This is
jam.
Jim talking about the weather.
Yeah.
Fuck you, weather.
And he's doing it still.
Fuck you, weather. Fuck you, weather.
I'm actually just going to send this one. Suck a dick. Suck a dick. Suck a dick. All right. There it is. Suck a dick. This is the jam.
Just a nice little jingle.
Suck a dick. Suck a dick. Suck a dick. Is this the first time you've heard this?
this is the first time I've heard this.
No, come on.
I've heard this part, and I've
this
heard
is
like
the
the
thing.
first 3 seconds. but
No,
that's
he
it.
made a whole like dance remix. Like
I feel like there
that's-
needs to be a
that's
dance
the
to
club
this.
mix. So I just emailed Jacob the new one. He tried to make one that's short and punchy because he felt this jingle does not get enough airtime, and we talk about the weather quite a bit. And so there was a collaboration in Discord, and he started publishing versions, and eventually he landed on a new one.
There's
so,
a winner.
Yeah, it's pretty solid.
We do have some people in Discord lending us their music services.
This is true.
Because apparently Jim and I don't work fast enough on this
I
replacing the theme song
Agree
music.
with whoever said that.
Yes, everybody said it.
Oh, great.
Everybody said
I
it.
would think I was in there and I said it.
Keep dreaming.
So that'll be exciting.
Yes.
But the only caveat, and I explained this to everybody, is I said the only way that we got Jim on board is that he has
plays a
agreed to
part.
play something.
I want a
so
byline.
whatever-
Which I
Has to
thought then
be
it will still never
Jim
get done.
featuring whoever
So-
the artist is who
so
actually made it.
fine, I don't care.
Yeah.
The important thing is you probably also have to write the music and just
Yes.
tell Jim what to play.
I want just send me a triangle,
Yeah.
and I'll just ding that a couple times. And
You wanted to go get the triangle yourself? They have to
no,
send it to you?
they have to send me
Great.
one. Yeah, and I'm also just going to play it here at this microphone, just dinging it once in there, and that'll be the end of my contribution.
Yeah.
So.
Well, once it arrives in the mail, then you need to take it to Guitar Center and have it tuned.
You got to get it tuned. Yeah,
Sure.
of course.
You don't want an out of tune triangle.
No, people can tell.
Yeah.
So
That's just
triangles
embarrassing.
then just play one note, right? Yeah.
I
Why is everybody
think
looking at
so.
me? Why are you acting weird?
think
That was
I've
a
never-
legitimate question.
Well, that's part
I
of
think
why
it
we're
just
acting
plays
like
I
one
think it
note?
does too, but I think it also plays the dinner chime, but that's it. So that's the
sounds
extent
right.
of my. We used to have a triangle at HSR. That
Oh,
was-
yeah. No, I
attached
know.
to the
That's
meal
how
house.
you'd call
Yeah.
people to.
That thing was so
Yeah.
much fun. Yeah.
Oh my God.
So actually, I am experienced in triangle play.
Oh, good.
More than you'd think I am.
Yeah.
Yeah. I used to do it every day. So
Yeah. And then you got triangle wrist, and then you couldn't do it
yeah.
anymore.
I had to.
That wasn't
I
from the
retired.
triangle.
I retired at the peak of my triangle game. Triangle
Whitney.
wrist. This is a kid's show. Jesus.
I heard that song.
There it is.
It's
Now
not
we're
a
gonna have to
kid
mark this
show.
one
This was so
explicit.
clean up until now.
Almost got through one. Almost got into the goddamn questions. Now we're going to mark it explicit. This potty mouth Whitney over here can't keep it in her pants. Jesus.
I cannot.
Can't and won't.
Cannot.
Can't and will not. We got some great questions today, starting off with codependent with parents. Hey, y'all. I have a complicated codependent relationship with my parents. As a result, I've struggled with self-esteem issues, my sense of identity, emotional suppression, depression, etc. I've spent the past year or so working with a therapist on these issues, and I'm happy to report that I've made some progress. I live across the country from my parents and the rest of my family, and I think the distance has been really helpful. However, I'm traveling back to my childhood home for the holidays, and I'll be staying with my parents for 2 weeks. Yep, we're late on this one.
Yep, sorry.
That's how the key works. Sponsor the show. Typically, when I'm there, it's really hard for me to get any space or time away from them, and I end up feeling really overwhelmed. If I try to take a few hours to myself, though, through something as simple as going to the store alone, they'll guilt me into bringing one of them with me by saying things like, "We never get to see you, and we just want to spend time with you while you're home." It's hard for me to push back when they do that because even though I know I need the space to take care of myself, it's easier to just give in than to risk some sort of emotional blow-up from them. As you might expect, I'm a little nervous about my upcoming trip. I'm feeling healthier and better able to set and enforce boundaries when I'm living away from them, but I'm worried I'll slip back into old patterns once I'm around them again. Do you have any recommendations about how to protect my growth once I step back into that environment? Thanks in advance. Much in advance. Like about 12 months in advance. Anonymous.
I assume the writer was talking about next Christmas.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
Right. People know. Yeah, people know the deal. That's a tough one.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of do this, but for different reasons. Like when we go back, Laura and I like to take walks. So we'll just leave the house for a little bit.
Okay.
And we'll go out and we'll take a walk.
Yeah.
Because it is kind of fun. And it's one of those things that I never really realized when I was living in this small town of 2,000 people.
Yeah.
Just how walkable everything is.
That's really nice.
And yeah, any place you want to go, you can just walk.
You don't do it in Vegas. Nobody ever takes a walk.
Oh, no, you can't walk anywhere.
No, you get by car.
Yeah. And so it's weird because like when I lived there, we drove every place. You know, like, oh, we got to go uptown to get something at the store. It's 2 blocks away, and we drove.
Oh, okay.
You know, like you just drive everywhere you go.
Oh.
And so when we're there, we like to walk every place. And so it's just kind of nice, and it's nice to kind of get away and have some peace and quiet, get some fresh air, all of that.
Smoke a doobie.
Yeah, all of that.
A doobie?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
doobies. Let me explain, Jacob. Doobie is slang
Doobie
for
Brothers.
a marijuana.
What year do you think it is?
I'm down with the slang, my man.
You are.
I watch a
I
lot
can't
of
wait for
this
Jim's
century,
kids
but
to
sure.
get older.
I watch a lot of TikTok, so the Gen Z kids, I've got the pulse.
He's hip with them.
I do still call it pot. I like to call it pot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I mainly just like calling it pot.
Not
do.
dope.
I know it's not current.
You don't call it the devil's cabbage?
I don't call it the devil's cabbage. I do call it a
You
funny
don't
cigarette.
use the good stuff then. Reefer madness. Oh, devil's cabbage.
That's
Anyway,
a naughty cigarette.
you were talking about how you abandoned your parents.
Yeah, that was it.
In Iowa.
But no one's ever questioned me about it.
It's because your mom
Yeah.
doesn't even
Yeah.
notice you're there, man.
That's true. Yeah, because she needs her break too.
Jesus, finally. Honey, could you walk to the hardware store and get me a hammer?
Yeah. No, the one in Des Moines. Yeah.
Do you want me to drive? No, just walk. It's negative 30 degrees outside, Ma. Yeah.
Yeah.
just walk.
Sure is.
I wonder what the emotional blow-ups look like. I
Yeah,
mean,
right.
that is challenging in codependent relationships when, like, maybe your parents' emotional reaction is dependent on what you tell them, and
Yeah.
they're, like, basing it off of that rather than it being 2 separate things. You feel your feelings, they feel theirs. And everyone's
It took me
responsible.
just a second to realize that you weren't still talking about Nick's family.
Aw. Well, I hope they're listening.
They're
Man,
not.
Wendy's really digging in on Nick here. Oh, right, the letter.
Yes, the writer. My bad. But yeah, that's a tough balance, especially when you've grown up with it. It's
Yeah.
like an established dynamic, and
Yeah.
you've been working on changing that, but they have not.
Yeah.
So to them, it can feel abrupt. It can feel confusing, and you're over here trying to set the boundaries. I totally agree with you talking about how it makes it a little easier living apart from them. I hear that all the time from clients. It's like
Yeah.
just getting some space or reducing the amount of time you're around kind of I'm going to use the word toxic, but unhealthy
Needy,
dynamics in
intrusive.
families, whether it's codependency or other things, but just getting that space can be really helpful. I've found sometimes to help not get sucked into that power struggle, sometimes just making sure while you're there each day, if you're able to at least have some time in the morning, maybe before you get out of your room and into their shared space, taking a minute to sort of, meditate, check in, not even like a full on meditation, but just a check in. How am I feeling? You've got this, a little pep talk, a little like reminder that you are your own person. You're allowed to go on a walk or go to the store without your parents. And
having your own area is really great.
That is so
Like
true.
your
And
own
I am
room.
assuming that they have their own room, so I guess I don't know that.
Sleep in the
But
living room or something.
yeah.
Sleeping in bed with mom and dad. I think.
Yeah. That's a different kind of toxicity.
Why don't you want to spend time with us? You're only here for a week.
Come on, hun. Come on.
You used to love this when you were a kid.
You make me put my head down by your feet. It's terrible.
It's hot in
It's only where
there.
we can all fit.
You just move away, and now I can't breastfeed you.
So yeah, taking just a minute to gather yourself, because when you are immersed back in that environment, it can be easy to get sucked in again, and then your emotions become dysregulated, and it's more challenging, less enjoyable.
It also seems like the family members are taking this personally.
Yeah.
Like any kind of time away, they interpret that as some sort of offense towards them. And even if it is, I guess if I'm in this situation, I'm probably not even going to pick that fight with them.
Right.
And if I'm going to have this talk and kind of explain like, hey, I just need time for myself, how I would do it personally to just kind of avoid that conflict is I would just kind of explain like, hey, my therapist and I are kind of working on my anxiety or kind of working on.
There you go.
On
Blame it on the shrink.
Yeah. Well, or the anxiety.
Oh, there you go. Yeah,
not even just family dynamics, but just
Right.
saying like, hey, we've kind of discovered that I need to take these little breaks. I need this alone time to
It's
kind
not
of
you,
reset.
it's me.
Yeah, it's just kind of like my energy level kind of gets zapped. So I have these little things that I do to kind of restore that, to make it seem more about that and less about, I just need my break from you.
Yeah.
And then maybe they're going to be a little bit more receptive to that.
Yeah.
To see you're struggling with something and not necessarily just wanting to be away from them, even if.
And also, like, actively don't say it's their fault.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Be like this is something that I have to do for me. It has nothing to do with you guys. It's not that I'm tired of you or anything. It's just I need to go do this.
No, you guys are great. The way that you've second guessed everything, every decision I made. I love that. That's awesome.
That's helpful.
Thank
Doing
you.
it.
If anything, I miss it.
Yeah.
I'm going to go stand by the dumpster for an hour now.
I just, you know what?
Smoking this funny
I
cigarette.
don't know why I'm dressing it up.
The
I just need to
doobie.
go furiously masturbate in the car. I'd prefer you not be there.
My alone time.
But if you're coming, that's what I'm doing.
If you're coming, so am I.
that's
am I.
another strategy,
That's
just-
the move. I mean, I don't know why it took us this long to get to it. There was an obvious answer that just ends this whole thing. It's, okay, dear. Well, you go ahead. You know what? I'm actually going to work on the salad. I think I'm going to start getting the salad going over here. You just.
You're not going to use that bowl, are you? You should wash that.
Oh, we broke Jim
Masturbate
again.
everywhere.
Yeah, you did. I cannot breathe. So I'll tell you that in this story, I am these parents. Like, I know I'm going to be these parents whenever my kids are grown up. And
it's cute. I use
I'm
the
really
future
hoping
tense.
they don't move away. I want them to, like, buy houses in my cul-de-sac. Like, I'm already, like, plotting that out. So, like, I know I'll be the guy.
I'm honestly, now that I think about this, I'm honestly a little surprised that you haven't done something to try to just buy the houses next door to your house.
I've strongly looked into it. No.
Yeah.
It's just that the interest rates are crazy. I mean,
Gotta
it's just
wait.
insane.
You got to buy it in their name.
Yeah, I know.
You gotta steal their identities.
Yeah, I know.
They have good credit.
I've got all their stuff. So now's the time. You got to rack up their debt before they graduate.
That's right.
But yeah, no, I relate to the parents in this because I know.
Wait, you have college funds for them too. That's a house down payment.
Oh yeah, no, I could just transfer that over
Yeah.
and the retirement
Absolutely.
accounts that I've got going. I
Yeah.
can just
Tax-free.
pivot those in too. You can use those to buy houses. But no, I relate to that. Like I know that I would be like ultra sensitive and be like, oh my gosh, you're only here for so long, and why aren't you hanging out with us? And I don't know that I would be mean about it. Like, I mean, obviously in this story, the parents, sound like they can be kind of volatile and kind of ruin the whole day.
No, you would sulk if they didn't give you what you wanted, though.
I would assume everybody's mad at me.
I'm going straight to Discord.
Right.
Yeah, no, I would immediately run to Discord for attention.
You would be sad and sulky.
Yeah, 100%. I'm going to do a guitar concert right now. I'll show you all. No, but like for me, if my kids were like, oh, you know,
Nick and Whitney both looked very surprised when I said that.
Yeah.
I don't know why you guys are surprised by me saying that at all.
No. What, the Discord bit? Did I miss a whole
that you would
other
be
bit?
sulky.
Oh, yeah.
No.
100%.
I was like, yeah, he would.
No, I'm
Enlightening.
confirming this.
It was
You're
enlightening.
speaking truth.
I
would
agree with you.
immediately assume that everybody was mad at me. If my son was like, hey, I'm going to go get a Starbucks.
Yeah. You want me to come with you? Not really.
No, I'm just going to,
You'd be like, the fuck?
Well, which one? Are you going to the really close one?
I'll be right behind
Yeah, I'll be
you.
right back. Okay, no. Something's up. Like, what's going on, man? Did I say something wrong? No, but you're bothering me now. Like, just let me go. I'll be back faster if you let me go.
I'm going to buy drugs.
Yeah, but I know.
Tell your family member you're just going to buy drugs.
I'd be like, oh, are you going by the one by the Walgreens? Like, you know, because I need to pick something up anyway. I'll come with you. You know, in the back of my head, I'm like, yeah, this will be good. Like, we can talk. We'll be one-on-one. And like, obviously, he just needs to get away from me and breathe. But there's no way I wouldn't take that personally. So when I think of all the advice that you guys were giving to the writer about like ways that you can gently, I think being direct is, I want to say good. I feel like I can handle it, but you'd have to sugarcoat it. It can't be like, I need to get away from you.
3 out of the 4 people in this room disagree.
We're all shaking our heads.
Okay, look, if you're going to let me down, it's got to be nice and easy. You got to lead with the whole chronic masturbation thing.
He's getting sulky.
Wouldn't you rather,
I'm already kind of emotional about this.
Wouldn't you rather live in ignorant bliss or think, wow, I'm helping him by not going
Well,
because
it depends,
he's dealing with
if
his
your lie
anxiety?
smells of bullshit, I'm going to read into it and now be really upset. So, like, it can't be too big of a lie. You have to,
I think it can just be like, I need a little bit of time on my own.
Yeah.
Just like this is something my therapist and I have been exploring.
Okay.
It's
Jim
really
would still
been
take
helping
that
with
personally.
me. He would.
No, my answer would be, so wait, your therapist?
I'm your therapist.
What is your,
so
first off,
what the
I'm your
fuck?
fucking therapist. All right? I don't know who this chump is. Okay? Let me see their awards.
Yeah.
And second off, are you talking about me to your therapist? What are you saying?
Absolutely.
Is it all good things? What are you leading your therapist to believe that I cause anxiety? Do you need space from me? Yeah. No, this is exactly where I'm going.
I actually wrote a chapter about this in my book.
I don't know if you read that book I wrote you when you were a child. And I took the fucking... Did your therapist write you a book? No? Then maybe you fucking listen to me. Go, let's get in the car. I'm driving. I'll take you to the Starbucks. Also,
It's
you're
really
getting
hitting
a
me
vanilla bean. You don't need any caffeine
as we-
because you have fucking anxiety.
As we continue this conversation, it's really hitting me how hard of a time your children are going to have
terrible.
as adults.
It's terrible. It's terrible. I have a whole fund set aside for their mental health. Like there's just like fun for them.
When does the mandatory reporting really kick in this?
We're getting close.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
say-
Whitney's dialed 9-1.
Yeah.
She's just
No,
kind of
I
hovering.
dialed both. I just haven't pushed send yet.
it's 10:52 right now. I'll say by 11.
Yeah, there will be a wellness check, but I agree with everybody else. I think framing it from the direction of, for whatever reason, I need little breaks just to get some fresh air and just kind of clear my head. And, you know, I love you guys. I'll be right back. Now, I don't think this works if you have a habit of leaving and then just like disappearing for a while, which I kind of get.
No, great point.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing that up, because I think one of the things that you could do that would make this situation worse is if you leave it wide open with what's the finish line? When are you going to be back?
That would bother me. Like, hey, I'm doing a quick run to Starbucks. I'll be back in 20 minutes.
Yeah,
all right,
I
cool.
mean, like if
an
you
hour and a
said-
half later, you wander back in, and I'm like, are we okay?
Yeah, no, I think you need to be direct with the time.
Yeah.
I'm going to go for a 10-minute walk and I'll be right back. And then you got to be back at 10 minutes, because I think that will decrease their anxiety.
Maybe
if
13.
they know that you're,
Not 13. That's insane.
Not 15. Not 15 for sure, but maybe
15. I'm calling the cops.
So that's just to avoid the conflict, right?
Yeah.
Is listing the time.
Yeah, I think just because
that's the baby step to help out the parents.
I think it is. I think it allows a little bit of predictability in a situation in which they feel like they have no control.
Yeah.
So if they can predict an outcome and they know that you're consistent with it, then I think it becomes less of a deal, less of an issue.
But I get it though. I mean, like, especially if your parents live alone and now you live in another place, the house feels empty. The house feels quiet. And when you're there, it is such a big deal to like walk into your living room and see your kid. But you also like can't entertain them 24 hours a day. And so like, you know, the majority of what you're doing is just being in each other's space and like watching an old movie or, chatting on the patio. And so there is a lot of empty time. Like when I go visit, family in some of those like smaller towns and there's not much going on, I get it. I get antsy and then it's like, okay, I'm just kind of looking for things to do. And I'll be like, would you say there's like an Old Navy down the road? I'm going to check out the Old Navy. They have some sales. It's like, really? You came all the way out here and just like going to go clothes shopping? Like,
buy some jeans.
What do you want to do here? And I'm like, I need to masturbate. Like, the fitting room's there.
I can only get it done at Old Navy.
Private. I can only masturbate at Old Navy. It's the sales.
It's the pleats.
It's just the sales.
Those pleats just get me going.
Something about cheap denim.
Yeah.
Oh, this show has hit the ground. So that's where we're going to leave it. I feel like you got all the advice.
You got a lot
need.
of good
I can't wait for the next conversation from Jim about, hey, guys, we need to clean up the show.
Well, Whitney's the one that started it. It was a clean show.
So it's just going to be Jim talking to me.
So she took it to the explicit.
Y'all are off the...
Jacob's not
Whitney.
the problem. Don't you even gesture at him.
Exactly.
Okay? Thank you. He's the whole wheat of this show.
Look at that
Holding
precious
this shit
face.
together.
So innocent.
We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back,
Christ on a pogo stick.
we're going to talk about therapy and trauma. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
Today's episode is brought to you by Ben, Dawn, Malia,
Ding, ding, ding,
It's
ding,
coming,
ding,
it's coming.
Boom, boom,
Sunny Boy,
the
University
volume down.
Chef, Samantha Cone, Thunder Cougar, Falcon Scoop,
Felt a little
Slurpee
lackluster.
K, Motherfucker, and Sandra McWaffle. And if you want to sponsor the show, head on over to patreon.com/therapy and sign up to become a therapy producer.
Do it.
All right.
Okay. This week's trivia theme, in honor of our therapy producers, is John Hughes movies.
Who's John Hughes?
No.
Come on.
All right.
Wait.
We got a
you just
distinct
mentioned one of his?
advantage.
Oh, man.
Oh, wait, are you playing too, Nate?
No, I know these.
Okay.
Okay. Seriously.
I really don't know who this
16
is.
Don't-
Candles.
He did all the
Breakfast
Brat
Club.
The Brat
Pack.
Pack.
Which guy is he in the Brat Pack?
He's
No,
not in the
no,
Brat.
don't
He's-
give him any
okay,
more.
Yep.
Is
no.
the director?
Well, he was the writer. He wrote
Yeah.
a lot of them. He directed most of them.
All right. So
he
like
was a writer
80s
director.
teen movies, basically.
There you go.
Kind
Yes.
of,
I'll
yeah.
probably
Yes.
be okay.
Yes. Okay.
Doesn't seem like it.
Okay. How many? This is this we'll set this as multiple choice.
Okay.
Or we could do closest without going over. Let's do closest without going over.
Okay.
How many John Hughes movies did John Candy appear in?
No.
Huh.
He wasn't in.
Closest
Brat
without going
Pack.
over.
What was that thing called?
The Brat Pack.
Brat
no,
Pack.
there was a
That's
movie. It had a name.
There's
a lot of them.
Yeah,
do.
there's.
A movie
I
with
believe
a
all of them
name.
had
Oh, it
names.
was the Brunch Society. Or
That's
whatever
it.
it was. The Brunch Poet Society.
And was John Candy in the Brunch Society, Jim?
No.
Okay, then. So that's not one.
Emilio Estevez was.
Okay.
All right. Woo.
And is that person John Candy?
That is not.
Oh, interesting. Interesting.
Did he direct Home Alone?
We're getting there. He did not direct. He wrote it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm going to say
he wrote Home Alone?
He wrote Home Alone.
Oh,
I'm going to say
wow.
3.
Okay.
Huh. Did he write Cool Runnings?
Just pick a fucking number.
One.
He did not.
I'm
Okay, you're going to say
one.
one.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Would you say 3?
I said 3.
Give me 3.5, please.
Okay.
Okay. Well, yeah, then I guess Jim wins.
Oh, you
That's
idiots! Dipshits!
7.
Oh, wow.
Winner!
He had really
That's a
small
lot.
roles in She's Having a Baby and Career Opportunities, but
Don't
he
think I
was
saw either
in.
of those.
He starred in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Sure.
Okay.
Uncle Buck.
Yep.
Okay.
Home Alone.
Those were my 3.
The Great Outdoors.
Oh.
National Lampoon's Vacation.
Oh, yeah.
John
he was-
Candy was
Oh,
in
he's the
that?
security
Yes,
guard.
Security
Oh,
guard.
Wally
Yeah,
Forgot
yeah,
about
yeah,
that.
Wally World. Yep.
Damn.
Okay.
All right.
I only have 4 of these, so unfortunately we're going to have to...
If I had counted all the ones that I actually knew, I only would have gotten to 4.
yeah.
Yeah, well, for
If
all
I'd
of you who
remembered
bet
Vacation.
against me, let that be a lesson to
No,
you.
literally no one bet on anything.
Nope.
No, I knew the answer all
Okay,
along.
we'll go
I just,
double or
I
nothing on the next
sandbag.
one.
That's what
Yeah.
I do to make the
Jim's
show
children are
interesting.
going to leave him.
No, whoa.
That's his
I
mental.
just explained
like,
that's
get in
my
the head,
fear.
get in the head.
Like, that's real.
Now we know how to hurt him.
Just drop hints throughout all the years. You guys should definitely move far away. Go to college in like Europe or something.
Yeah.
Aunt Whitney, Uncle Nick, and Uncle Jacob all got you guys luggage.
Lots of luggage. Go far, far away.
Therapy and trauma from Jane Doe. Hey, Pod Therapy folks. A few years ago, I experienced a couple of traumatic events and have been dealing with the aftermath since. I feel apathetic and have lost my sense of purpose and meaning. Both my identity and my perception of the world around me have shifted significantly. I feel disconnected from others and am much more protective of myself. I've been in therapy to address these issues, but it hasn't really been helpful. If anything, it's made things worse for me. The first therapist I worked with crossed ethical boundaries. That experience left me feeling blamed for the consequences of the relationship and struggling to trust other therapists and to trust myself. Since then, I've tried a few new therapists. I have a therapist now who I mostly trust, but we've reached a point where we both feel stuck. We've tried different approaches, but still nothing seems to help me make progress. We've discussed this feeling of being stuck at length. In addition to therapy, I'm on medication and do what I can to take care of myself, eating well, getting exercise and sleep, etc. I'm not sure what else to do to make meaningful changes in my life and move on from the events of the past. What do you do when it feels like you've tried everything, yet you don't make significant progress? How do you heal when the therapy itself caused you harm? How do you know when to step away from therapy entirely? And, if it's time, what do you do to replace it? Thanks for all you do, Jane Doe.
Ooh.
It's a heavy one.
That is heavy.
Okay. There's actually several questions here,
Yeah.
and they're all kind of have different answers, I guess, or I would answer them in different ways.
Yeah.
You want to go first?
Yeah, sure. I'll jump in with some things that came to mind. First of all, for any therapists listening out there, this is a tough place to be in as a therapist, too. I've been there where you have literally tried every tool in your toolbox, staffed the client with, your own colleagues to try and find new ideas, and the person is still just struggling, especially when we're talking about like depressive symptoms. It can be really difficult. So I just want to throw that out there. But what came to mind when I was kind of listening to your struggle with feeling like therapy didn't work, I feel like Jim isn't going to like my answer. But
Yes.
I know.
He's probably right then.
He's staring at me. No, I was going to ask what kind of therapy that you're utilizing, because maybe trying something really different. And it sounds like, I could be totally off, I'm assuming. It sounds like you're maybe doing a lot of talk therapy,
Right.
CBT, some like stuff that does work for a lot of people. But if that's not working for you, maybe looking into something like EMDR.
Yeah,
or
we're not anti-EMDR.
Okay, I thought you
I'm cool
were.
with it.
I got that vibe.
As long as people right-size the research supporting it. But anecdotally, I've had
Yeah.
a lot of people benefit from it.
Yeah, it's like a very different approach for treating trauma. And I feel like if you know kind of specifically what has traumatized you, like you're sharing this experience with your therapist or other things in your past that's happened, that could be something really helpful. So I know you didn't specify, maybe you've already tried that. But if you have not, maybe switching up the kind of therapy you do. And if you're struggling with trusting new therapists, so that's the next thing. It's like,
Yeah, that's
okay,
another question.
well, so if your therapist, for example, is not utilizing EMDR with you, but you're wanting to try that, it's like, well, now I have to go trust a new therapist. So maybe asking your current therapist if they know of someone they can directly recommend, that might help with some of that transition, or maybe seeing if they will do one session together with you, or, just something to help you feel more comfortable, since you have specifically been traumatized by an unethical therapist.
Do you do EMDR?
I don't.
Okay, so if this is good, so if let's kind of use this as an example. So if one of your clients came to you and said, "Hey, we've been working on this trauma stuff. I kind of want to try EMDR." Would you feel personally offended that they asked to do that?
Absolutely not. And I have people that I really trust, and based on me knowing your personality, I feel like I would be pretty confident in recommending you a clinician that could.
And I would bet that this person's therapist probably feels the same way.
Yeah.
I think your therapist is on your team.
Yeah.
And it's kind of one of those things where it's like, if we're a team and, we've got, somebody who's really good at at this thing and somebody who's really good at this, but we're missing this piece. Well, let's get that person on the team.
Right.
I think everybody's on board with that. And I think your therapist probably would be too. So I don't think it's necessarily anything. I would encourage you to not stress about that, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think that as I read the letter, I mean, one thing that obviously is terrible is to find out that you had a first therapist that, crossed ethical boundaries.
Makes me so sad.
It's tough. And then to hear that, in the aftermath, you felt kind of blamed for that and the consequences of that. And it sounds like there was just a real mess with it. And like you said, I mean, that made it really hard for you to trust the process. And it's always such a really difficult thing, right? Because I generally want to root for therapy. I want to root for the profession. Obviously, we all believe in it. We do it for a living. But then you hear stories like that, and it's really hard to then ask somebody to kind of rally and try again, because it is going to feel strange to them. And therapy is now when the next therapist is bonding with you and, leaning in on the relationship and developing, especially when you're doing trauma work, it's a very intimate experience. And there really is a lot of trust and a lot of closeness. And whenever that is going to make you feel nervous because it's going to flash back to this bad experience you've had and you're not going to trust your own instincts and it's just going to be really hard. So I really respect that you got back into the process. You didn't let that stop you. And I think it shows a lot of bravery. And, my heart's just broken that you had that experience. It's really, really sad. I want the world to know that, data-wise, research-wise, it's very rare.
Yeah.
But that doesn't make a lot of difference to somebody who just went through that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that could also be, an obstacle here too, because, Nick's right. And I agree with Whitney, in situations where I look at, the trauma of the patient and maybe we've already done some traditional trauma reprocessing work, but, we are still stuck. And I feel like, okay, I've kind of reached, maybe the end of my expertise on this. But there are others who really just specialize in this, and sometimes you want to go to a specialist for that. I mean, I consider myself a generalist on most things and a specialist on a few things. But there are some things that I'll be like, okay, I can definitely level 1 with you on this. And we could start. But then we may reach a place where I go, you know what? I think that there's somebody that could really take this to, where you need it to be. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, when you've been through this kind of stuff with bad relationships in therapy, it can be really scary, to be referred to anybody else. So, but I agree with you, Whitney. I think because the therapist already has a good relationship with the patient, they are the best person to refer because they can handpick a therapist that they know is credible, and is a good match, for whatever factors might make that person feel more safe. So those could all be really good ideas. Mm-hmm. But I do think that there's something to be said for what do you do when you've done enough therapy? Yeah. I've done the therapy. I've done all the things asked of me. And I think we're at a place where what's left behind, what I'm still dealing with, may just be present. Yeah. Now what? I know. That's an interesting question about when it's time and what's the process for kind of returning to kind of, okay, non-treatment time for a while to maybe work on things a different way. Yeah. What came to mind for me on that part of the letter was just trying, and I've said this on here before, but just trying to space out some of your sessions and see how you feel. Is that really baseline? Do things get worse when you space it out every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, and you feel like it's getting worse? I've had clients do that and then they jump back in. Or some clients, the pacing spreads out and maybe they are just living with a new normal or a different normal for them at the moment. Yeah. But that would be a good thing to explore. I think it's helpful to explore if you're feeling stuck to see how missing a session or then missing 2 weeks worth of sessions or whatever, just progressing toward that and checking in and seeing how you actually feel about it. But I agree. I think that would be my next question is what does maintenance look like for you? There it is. Yeah. At this point. Good point. So so maybe this isn't, the analogy I always like to use. Actually, my one of the Nick's analogies. We need the jingle. One of the old professors that I worked with in graduate school, he used this really good analogy, kind of talking about solution focused brief therapy, and he's like, it's almost kind of like we have you, and he had his hand out, like this, and he said. And then on top, and this problem that you have is
right hand, and it's on top of the left hand. And so this problem that you have is just weighing you down. It's on top of you, and it keeps you from moving forward. You've got goals, you've got things that you want to do, but you can't move because this thing is just pressing down on you. And he said the idea behind therapy isn't to make this thing go away. It's to just slide you out from under it. So it can go
drag
with
it along with you.
Yeah. So you learn to coexist with it. It comes along with you, but you don't carry it. You don't feel the weight directly. And if it follows you around, it follows you around. It's just kind of like one of those little, my little monster that just kind of sits next to me as opposed to sitting on top of me.
Well, especially with trauma, what you just described, I think is very accurate. And unfortunately, and it's also really tough whenever you're working with a new patient and they're like, so what can I expect from therapy? Are we going to see the elimination of my discomforts?
Yes.
And that is a goal. And I hope that for you. And oftentimes people report a reduction in the pain or discomfort and the psychic distress. But a lot of times what we're really trying to do is help you cope with those things and avoid abreactions with trauma. I just don't want your behaviors to be dysfunctional. So a lot of times it's giving you the muscle to sort of stand up to these things and function well despite feeling the distress. And I hope we can reduce it, but what you just said, Nick, is very true. Sometimes these are realities and it's really about coexisting with it.
Yeah, I mean, so it can be something that is just with you, but it doesn't keep you from doing things. You can move on with your life. You can start new things, new projects. You can move. You can start a new career. You can do all these different things.
Right.
And if it just follows you along, it follows you along, but it's not going to be in the way. So I guess, when you say like you haven't made any significant progress, you didn't say you haven't made any progress. You said you haven't made any significant progress. So one thing that I would ask you to kind of think about is what is the progress that you feel that you have made?
Yeah.
And then I would ask you, how did you do that? And is that something that you can continue doing? Is there, are you able to maintain that, the progress that you have made? And what does life look like if that's the case? And is that doable? Or do you feel like you need to continue working at this? So
and maybe a support group, because sometimes getting away from the professional and kind of getting into more of a peer circle, because the writer talks about in the beginning feeling disconnected and kind of very protective. And sometimes to start doing some meaningful work there, we have to sort of get involved with other humans again. So like sometimes in your local community, there'll be like a victims of crime trauma support group, or a lot of therapists run them and you can kind of find out about it through the grapevine. Or your local NAMI chapter might have a trauma support group as well.
I just talked about this with one of my clients recently who has made tons of progress in therapy but hadn't really addressed a serious trauma they had been through, because she said when she would tell friends, she said the response is usually like clam up and nobody knows what to say or do, so they don't respond. So she's like, well, that's not helpful. And then you talk in therapy and she's like, well, I've worked through a lot of the heaviness and coping, but at some point it's still on your back or it's still with you. And it's like, maybe I just want to talk about that thing that's with me and have somebody relate. Just acknowledge it. Yeah, if that. So you're not carrying it around secretly or it's not walking around with you, that little monster secretly, but it's something you want to have acknowledged by someone who might understand. It's
very much so. And one thing I really applaud the writer on this too, coming back to like the process of therapy, I really admire the writer for broaching this with the therapist.
Yeah.
Talking openly about, I am feeling stuck, and I'm not putting that on you. And for the therapist to have such a great alliance with you that they can agree and say, yeah, we are stuck, aren't we? We're not making progress on this. But here we are. And sometimes, like you described, we're here to talk about the challenge, even though we don't have a solution right now. But there's something about that, acknowledging it mutually and making it a safe place, even to acknowledge our frustrations with treatment itself. That's a special relationship.
Yeah.
I don't know a lot of patients that will openly say that.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of trust, right? Because that goes both ways, because we have to definitely be on the same page that you can share that with me and I know what you mean by that. And we're in a good place for, us to understand that together.
I have a follow-up question, more for the three of you. And I'm saving this to the end because I don't want to completely derail this. It's still relevant.
Until now.
Now I'm going to derail it.
Do it.
But I think it's still relevant to what the writer's talking about. But there's one thing that just sticks out to me right in the very beginning is I feel apathetic and I feel like I've lost my sense of purpose and meaning. This kind of sticks out to me because it's just kind of an observation that I've had that I don't know if maybe something's wrong with me.
Yes.
Or
Safe bet.
but yeah, but like, do you guys feel like you have purpose and meaning in your life?
Yeah.
Okay, because I don't.
Jim, you feel like that, right?
Yeah, remember that thing
Yeah,
about me
Whitney?
being obsessed with my kids?
Okay.
Whitney's got purpose and meaning coming out of her asshole.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can
Is
see
that
it.
what
That is the
Yeah,
purpose.
you can see it.
She's
That is her
oozing
meaning.
purpose
Yeah.
and meaning.
It's a new chair.
All
Yeah.
over the chair. It's
brand new chair.
Thanks for
Sorry,
that.
No,
guys.
but like I
Go to
don't
the litter box. That's why it's there.
I don't feel like I have that.
Yeah.
And I'm also okay with it.
You don't have purpose or
No,
meaning.
I don't have I don't have a sense
Yeah.
of purpose or meaning.
Okay,
no.
so this is one of the things that I've
I have
seen.
a vague sense of porpoise, but only when I'm swimming.
This is one of the things that I've noticed with a lot of people that when they feel like they're going through a lot of like existential stress and crisis that I feel like I can't relate to. I hear people say that they're very frustrated and they feel like they don't have a sense of purpose.
Yeah.
But I also feel like I don't have a sense of purpose, but it doesn't bother me.
Or it's not.
It's not because it's
I think it can be broader than just the sense of purpose thing. It is, I'm not feeling great. I'm feeling bothered by A, B, and C, whatever those things are. And I think I should be feeling a different way than I am.
yes.
The way that I'm feeling is wrong.
Yes.
I should be feeling a different way. It's not just sense of purpose. It's anything.
Yes, and it's almost like I feel like a lot of people feel like I should have a calling.
Right.
I should have something that like my life is all about this thing.
Yeah.
I should have that, and I don't have that. Whereas I'm kind of in that perspective. I'm kind of from this mindset of like, I don't think that is anything that is given to me from an external source. Like, I don't think there was a higher power. I don't think the universe has something that's set out for me. I feel like I can kind of define my purpose and my meaning on my own. And the fact that I haven't figured that out yet, I'm at peace with. It's not, I don't feel like I'm missing something, but I feel like people who have that sense of like, no, everybody, there's like this fate. Everybody has something they're here for. There's a purpose. There's a meaning behind everything. And if they don't have that, it causes so much stress and they can't really move on. Am I crazy?
I mean, what
Am I
you're describing is the basis of Scientology.
Well, yeah, there's that
It
too.
is your feelings.
Well, that's
are,
not what I wanted to hear.
But no. But this is
Tom
absolutely
Cruise,
backing you
Tom
up.
Cruise. That's who you look like. I've got it. All right,
John
sorry.
Travolta
It's the middle tooth,
with
isn't
the
it?
Yeah.
dreads.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, this absolutely backs you up because what Scientology does and what a lot of other organizations do is they prey on people that are having these types of feelings.
Oh.
You see where I'm going
Yeah,
now?
I do.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, that is what you're describing is out there and it's just everywhere. And people do, I think a lot of people, not people writ large, but I think a lot of people absolutely have, crisis of confidence, or, smaller or bigger than the writer has. And it is a lot of it is stemming from a lack of acceptance of self for whatever reason.
Yeah.
It is not always just, I don't mean to make that sound like it's a super simple thing. Just accept who you
Right,
are. Like
right,
that's
right,
that's not what I mean at all. But that's just kind of boiling it down to a very easy.
Well, I agree with
easy
Jacob.
sentence.
I think you should join Scientology. But
Please.
I think there's a little bit of a differentiation between.
The next bet that Jim loses is going to require him to join Scientology.
Oh man! Oh, that
Wait.
wouldn't stop me
Big bet.
though.
Wait, I feel like
I feel like I'm 1 foot in.
That's
Like,
going to be the March Madness bet this year.
I was gonna say, I feel
loser.
like
Well, we did have that bit where if Nick lost, he had to join a religion of my choosing and like faithfully
yeah.
attend for like a month.
Yeah.
Now, like loser has to join Scientology.
I just think that's a solid bit. But I think that there's a difference between a sense of destiny and fate versus kind of more what Viktor Frankl described in Man's Search for Meaning as just like this conscious angst of like feeling that I need to have intention with my space. And so one of the things Viktor Frankl did, which was, really interesting, and I don't know how I feel about it today, but at the time very bold, is he would straight up ask his patients, why haven't you killed yourself yet? And he was fishing for them to land on something that gives you a reason to be alive, because unlike other animals, man is aware of his existence.
I was going to ask Nick, why do you wake up in the morning? Like, why do you choose the things you do? Yeah. You golf every day now?
Feels like it's getting pretty damn close, I'll tell you that.
But I mean, like, when I, as an observer from the outside looking in, like, why do your fitness stuff that you help others? Why show up to this podcast? You get paid nothing to do. Like, so, and maybe that's more
for
what Jim's
chicks.
saying.
Obviously.
The one that we pay to hang out with us.
Yeah.
It's true. But to me, it's not so much a sense of like, what Jim was saying, the purpose and meaning being from an outside overlord or something like that. Yeah. It's more like, why it's internal. Why do you do the things you do?
And it's definitely internal, and also I feel like it's right now.
Right.
You know, like I with the kind of understanding that like, okay, well this is what I'm doing today.
Right.
Tomorrow I may decide done with mental health or mental fit, done with golf, done with everything, and you know, I'm like going to devote my life to playing bass guitar.
Sure.
You know, whatever that. Yeah.
But
or if he loses a bet, to Scientology.
Scientology. I mean, where Viktor Frankl was coming from, I think he was just examining, you know, obviously the book is written from his perspective of surviving the Holocaust and being in a concentration camp, and his observation of how survivors of the Holocaust got through, and really breaking down consciousness to the bare bones, and his revelation that, you know, humanity requires intention. There has to be a task. Now, that didn't have to be supernatural, and he goes to great lengths in the book to explain that for some people, they were like, well, I can't die today because I ain't finished that wall yet. I got to finish that stupid wall. You know, well, I can't die today. But that sense of I have something to do, I think that is important for psychological health. And that's not to disagree with you, because I think you're talking about something probably more akin to like destiny and like greater purpose, you know, bigger picture. But I can understand where the writer's coming from. Where I think a lot of people get stuck, writer, is when you're traumatized and you've been through something that attacks your identity, and then now it's adjacent to depression, and now we're dealing with apathy, and we're dealing with maybe depressive symptoms. We can look to regain a sense of purpose and zeal for life, believing that if we heal the past, we will get that back, that it will be restored. And more often, in my experience, depending upon the patient and the case, I tend to notice that's not how we're going to get that back. We're going to get that back when we start finding direction that is subjectively meaningful to you. And I usually do that with values analysis, trying to kind of do values inventories with people, surveying things that they are interested in, you know, not just hobbies and things, but like, what's important to you? And if they're like, well, I really care about my parents. It's like, okay, so like in your perfect life, your parents would be well taken care of and you'd have a good relationship with them. Yeah. Okay. That gives me one little nugget on the map that tells me what, if we're going to reconstruct things that make you feel alive and like you have a reason to get up for the today, then we need to find those little like markers on the map. And usually for me, that starts with values analysis. So it's a little bit more of a forward thinking formula and a little bit more about like rediscovering motivation, which motivational interviewing, by the way, is a really helpful way to kind of rediscern that. But I get it. Like you still want to deal with the trauma, you still want to deal with depression, and you should. But I do think that I've noticed for some people, that doesn't automatically restore that sense of meaning or purpose or motivation or direction. To get that, we usually have to discover what your direction is and then start to unpack together why you're interested in doing that.
Yeah.
And then you start finding projects and tasks, and it starts small. You know, I have a patient just this week that we identified that, you know, this month they're going to go to a soup kitchen and serve the homeless once. And it was like, well, why? Because I have nothing else to do with my life right now and I feel empty inside. Would you get something out of that? Yeah, I would. You know, that sounds good to me. I'd feel good about doing that. Great. Now we have that to look forward to. So now you have something to wake up and do tomorrow. You're going to research this. We're going to calendar this. You're going to figure out how to drive there. You're going to figure out what you need to do. You're going to call the manager there, get on the list to help. Like, and now what are we doing? Like, we're tasking, right? And then that experience might lead to something bigger. You know, that's small little fragments of meaning, but all meaning is ultimately constructed subjectively. and portrayed excellently in what should have been the Oscar award-winning film, Battlefield Earth.
I thought you were going to say Napoleon.
Oh, God, no.
Oh
no.
You didn't
no.
like that. You didn't like that movie.
Oh, that movie's awful.
He's way above that.
Yeah.
As evidenced by Battlefield.
Joaquin Phoenix is a joke, okay? Yeah. I like Forrest Whitaker, all right? I like John Travolta. I like big budget sci-fi
Thanks for writing
films.
in, Ryder.
That's what I'm talking about. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're talking about meth-induced psychosis.
Woohoo.
Party time! You're listening to Pod
Are there
Therapy.
doobies involved in that?
Today's episode is brought to you by
We are doing Scientology this episode.
Don, Malia, Richard Macy, Sonny Boy, University Jeff, Samantha Cone, Thunder, Cougar, Falcon, Scoop, Slurpee Kaye, Motherfucker, and Sandra McWaffle. Head on over to patreon.com/therapy and sign up to become a theraproducer and sponsor the show.
Apply directly to the forehead.
Second question. Which of these actors was not in a John Hughes movie?
John Candy, final answer.
Okay, Jim's out. A, Martin Short. B, Brian Doyle Murray. C, Michael Keaton. Or D, Robert Downey Jr.
I want Michael Keaton.
Okay.
Will you repeat them, please?
Yes. Which one of these was not in a John Hughes movie? Martin Short, Brian Doyle Murray, Michael Keaton, Robert Downey Jr.
I mean, I don't remember Martin Short in any of them. I'll go Martin Short.
I feel like that was the better bet. I feel like it's going to be you or me
Okay.
to the death.
So, no matter
take
what
those
you
odds.
pick, Jim is
Also, you
saying
hold the
you're wrong.
knives.
I know.
Including
Which
if
I
you
was-
take Michael Keaton or Martin
I know.
Short.
I
You
was
just can't win.
like, it's one of those two, and then you both said one. So I'm like, well,
Which one did you go with, Jim?
Keaton.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Michael Keaton because that was what I wanted
I do
to
think it's
say.
a solid guess. Because I don't know who that Brian Doyle Murphy guy is.
Brian Doyle Murray is Bill Murray's older brother.
Oh!
Oh.
Okay, so he was
in Christmas Vacation.
He was in Christmas Vacation.
Yeah.
He was the boss.
Yeah,
he
I
was,
love him in
Yeah,
that
yeah.
movie.
He was in Caddyshack.
Yeah,
all
he
that, yeah.
gets work. Okay. And then I feel like Robert Downey Jr. was like 80s Prince boy
Yeah,
back then.
he was.
crushing it, so he's showed up in something.
Yeah.
And then you got to figure Martin Short's funny. So Michael Keaton, I don't think was like heavy on comedy back then. He started doing comedy like ironically later on, so I'm going with that.
Okay.
I show my math. I like to let people know what's
Now
going
that he's
on.
shown his math, do you still want to go with that?
Well, I'm committed, so yes.
Okay.
I'm sure I'll
it is
regret
Martin
this.
Short.
Ah.
Short is
All
right.
right.
Brian
That's what I said, right?
Yeah,
yes,
that's
you
good.
did.
Yeah.
Brian Doyle Murray was the pastor in 16 Candles.
Oh.
Michael Keaton was in Mr. Mom. And Robert Downey Jr. was in Weird Science.
Weird Science.
Oh.
So there you go.
Oh, John Hughes.
Wow,
Had
Jacob
his
and I are
fingers
tied
in
for
all the
first
pies.
place,
Mhm.
as we should.
Is there one more question at the end?
I actually
You
do
have
have
four, you
I've got three more actually. Now that I
That
realize.
seems like too many.
Okay.
Meth-induced psychosis. Hi, y'all. Love the show and have been a listener since your first ICS episode. I think we're due for
That's
another one of
awesome.
those, by the way. It's been a few
I feel
years.
like you've done enough.
Okay. For the record, I'm loving you guys adding Whitney to the pod. It's much more than simply adding a female voice or perspective. She's
wouldn't say
also
much more.
very intelligent, and you can tell she's a great therapist.
She goes by Chelsea now.
Yeah.
Wow. Whitney, your mom has excellent writing. This
Thanks,
is
Mom.
So nice.
They did say anonymous.
Anonymous mom. Winky face, love you, babe. Anyway, enough with the brown nosing. I am very
No, keep brown
interested.
nosing.
No, please continue. This is all the letter should be. I am very interested in psychology and the workings of the brain, and I came across a condition called meth-induced psychosis. I find it fascinating how a drug could cause these types of symptoms. I'm wondering if you've ever dealt with that or something similar. Oh,
Y'all are like
Jesus.
every day.
Do we have stories? I know it's a weird question, especially since it's not happening to me or anybody close to me, but I'm just interested in the concept in general. Thank you for all you do. All the best, Mo, a.k.a. Whitney's mom.
Aw, thanks, Mom.
Mamo.
Mamo.
Mamoa.
Yeah. Meth-induced psychosis.
Oh, we've seen
I
it.
honestly only have one experience with this, and it was I almost said personal, but I knew where y'all would go with that. Personal, like a friend of a friend or whatever. But yeah, like a pretty direct I don't know, just experience with that. And it was wild. And this is what I want to hear both of y'all's input on. I was like, I know you guys got this one, but I'm more curious about the after effects, because the minimal amount that I know about this type of situation and thinking about this friend of mine when we were much younger is that they were hospitalized. They went on antipsychotic medication, and as they were after they were detoxing, and then the worry was, do the symptoms go away or do they stay? And my understanding was it can stay, but it could also disappear. You just don't know. So definitely correct me on that if I'm wrong. And then their perspective was, after they detoxed and they were on this antipsychotic medication, there's a lot of really negative side effects to those.
Oh, antipsychotics?
Not a lot, but noticeable ones, like
lethargy.
Yeah, and I'm blanking on what it's called right now, but where you like pace while you're standing, like movements.
Tics?
Yeah, like tics, but
Tardive dyskinesia.
Yes, that. I was like, it starts with a T, and it's not tics, not the
Termites.
It sucks your blood.
Yeah.
But her perspective was, eventually after she cleaned up, she did a whole, not detox, but green juice and working out and yoga and all this stuff. And she's like, and then I just stopped taking my antipsychotics, and she's fine. And she is fine, but
she had meth-induced psychosis.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Big difference.
So
there.
I'd love to hear all your input and
Organic psychosis.
So there's
Get my psychosis the old-fashioned way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mama's milk.
Natural.
So the prevalence for this is like 40%.
Okay. That's
Pretty high.
Pretty high.
Pretty high.
Yeah.
But you also have to figure too, that range of symptoms is also so broad.
Right.
Hers was pretty intense.
Yeah. So there are examples that, I'm sure both Jim and I can think of examples of people who've had really intense symptoms of this. And there are also folks that have had very, very mild, right? But they all count towards that 40%.
Gotcha.
So even though it sounds like it's a really big number, you also have to remember that there's a wide range of symptoms. And it's not really clear what causes it. Because there is, obviously you're taking a pretty strong substance that has effects on the brain, number one. You also have to look at pre-existing psychotic symptoms that the meth then doesn't necessarily induce, but exacerbates, right? And then the other thing you need to consider too is that these folks are often sleep deprived.
Right.
So you have to figure that in too. So it's not really clear cut. As to say, like, this, we know this mechanism, this is how it works, and this is, what it leads to. So will the symptoms continue long after, after they've detoxed? Typically not, if it is truly meth-induced psychosis. Once you've detoxed it should go away. But then that also, we don't really know the true cause of that either. If it was already if they were in the past had experienced psychotic symptoms.
Okay.
So it is a little confusing in that sense. But yeah, I mean, usually, you kind of have a pretty good clue of what's going on after 24 hours of them being in the facility, well, probably closer to 36 hours, but
especially when they're trying to take apart your VCRs and put them back together again.
I didn't have that.
The voices told them to.
That was a dual success.
Was it?
Oh God. He took apart the VCR and a ceiling fan.
Wow.
Yeah.
A lot of
and
energy.
Tried to reassemble it. They had to take apart the ceiling fan to get the cameras out because they were watching him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Smart.
Yeah.
Take apart the VCR to get the listening devices out.
Yeah. Then you got to
That's a hell of a drug.
Then you got to take apart the toaster because that's where the tools are to take apart the VCR.
And you paid for that experience. Yeah. Fun times.
Yeah. I mean, so there's all sorts of different.
First one's always free.
Yeah. I was trying to think of examples of experiences with it, and it's weird because I couldn't really think of any, specific
All the times
examples.
Nick has used meth. He never had
Exactly,
psychosis.
It's come up a lot. I mean,
I've had, I know I've had experiences with it, but usually like the ones that I've encountered have typically been pretty mild, like people will see kind of shadow figures, stuff like that, or
paranoid delusions.
Yeah.
And then also just, I can remember one client that I had in my office once where he wasn't saying anything. He wasn't really vocalizing anything, but every once in a while he would just kind of stare off in the spot in the middle of the room. And it was just this empty space.
Creepy.
And he would just kind of smile like somebody was telling him a joke.
Right.
But I would ask him like, hey, what's going on there? And nothing.
And that could also just be sleep deprivation as well.
Get it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, everything with like the people I've known on meth. I had one close friend that was really on meth for a long time, and like the stuff that they would do every so often. I certainly didn't know if it was meth or if it was just like
being awake for 5 days.
They haven't slept in the last week.
Yeah.
Yeah. All those things combined. And, to put it in perspective, by the way, because I think that there can be, meth is a very powerful drug. And so, like Nick was saying, there's a high correspondence with psychosis. But you should know that we have other diagnoses like cannabis-induced psychosis and alcohol-induced psychosis. So these are not just something that meth in particular can do. It is something that lots of different substances can do. And, obviously those ones, alcohol and cannabis, are ubiquitous, and obviously they're not largely associated with those symptoms. But it's important that the general population know, I've seen both of those happen. I've had a patient with
different shit affects people different.
Very much so. And also quantity
sure.
and underlying things. I mean, especially if you're out there and you have schizophrenia, there's a lot of people that try to self-medicate with meth or with cannabis especially. It's very contraindicated. Do not do that. But yeah, coming full circle on this thing, just to remind the general audience, what is psychosis? Psychosis and also psychotic symptoms are whenever you are hearing things that are not there or you are seeing things that are not there. It is often also going to show up with a different thing that we call delusion. And delusion is whenever your perception and interpretation of things is inaccurate, but you're not hallucinating, right? So you see Oprah Winfrey on TV, you're not hallucinating Oprah Winfrey, she really is on TV, but you're convinced that she's talking only to you, and it's a secret message about how she loves you and where she wants to meet you to marry you. That's a delusion, right? But not a hallucination. So that particular episode with Oprah would not be psychotic, it would be delusional. So it's very common that you have
you were about
both.
to say which episode of the Oprah Winfrey show that was on.
Yeah, I'll tell you. The
that
one that
specific episode of Oprah Winfrey.
Season 7.
Yeah, episode 2. So, those are what those are. And yeah, meth has a very powerful ability to induce this in people, and it's usually temporary. But what's interesting about this, man, we've had a bunch of cases with this. We've told some of the stories on the show. We've told a story about the coworker we had who was trapped in the bathroom with the guy with the knife. Mm-hmm. That guy had schizophrenia, and when medicated was great, but had relapsed on meth. And so that caused that whole thing. We had the guy who disassembled the VCR and the ceiling fan, believing that there were monitoring devices in them. And countless people that, got their hands on meth. Or bath salts. That was the other one. Spice.
Oh, yeah.
God, spice was a bitch.
Well, spice and bath salts were different.
Damn it. Yeah. No, I know. Spice was a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Because that was one we could never track.
Right.
Because at the time, we didn't have tests that could detect spice. So we'd ask them, are you smoking? Like you're clearly tweaking out of your brain. And then we'd have them pee in a cup and they'd come up negative. And then we'd have to search their apartments. And the good news was when they were, loaded on spice, they were very disorganized. So usually they'd be like, what? I haven't been using anything. Like, cool. Do you want to sit here and play with my stapler while I go to your apartment? Yeah, that sounds cool. And then we just go up there and be like, hey, there's a big ass pile of spice and like a bowl and a lighter over here. Yeah. Is this yours? Oh, yeah, it's mine, man. Can you put that back? Yeah.
What's this new container of turmeric?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, we'd see stuff all the time, but usually it was temporary. But what was interesting is meth-induced psychosis is one of the only times that I think we've legaled somebody. So put them on a legal 2000, a legal hold, and you can get away with doing that even though they're intoxicated. Because usually, depending on the situation, if you're drunk and disorderly as other things, they're not going to usually accept a psychiatric hold, because even though you're a danger to yourself and others in a sense, you're also clearly intoxicated. It's temporary, and a lot of times they're just not going to handle that. But the meth-induced psychosis can last so long. And it goes back to what you were saying, Whitney. It's like, well, how long is that going to endure? And is it going to need to be medicated to even you back out? And that's what's different is I think, sometimes with meth-induced psychosis, it doesn't just go away when you sober up.
Yeah.
It lingers.
Well, and part of the withdrawal management protocols are usually going to include an antipsychotic in that sense.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So,
Withdrawals can cause additional issues as well.
Yeah. Meth, not even once.
Also, stay away from the meth.
Yeah, just
stay away
do it.
from it.
Don't
Don't
do
do
that.
it.
It's a meth out there.
Oh, man.
That was a methy comment.
That's a
That's
dad
what
comment.
That's what our former coworker Brian would always say about
I
Pahrump.
liked Brian.
Not Brian.
It's a meth out
How's
there?
Pahrump? It's a meth out there.
Yeah.
Oh, that is
Okay,
solid.
that's appropriate.
Yeah.
That's an
That is
appropriate
so
joke.
solid. God. And that was so true. I remember up at the mountain.
Oh, Pahrump.
All of my methies were from Pahrump. It's like, oh, here we go. Oh, man.
rough.
Good question, though. And PSA to everybody. Yep. If you're fooling around with, psychiatrically inhibiting or changing substances, you never quite know how that's going to affect you. So, sometimes you hear, you watch things like Breaking Bad and you just think like, oh, yeah, meth's like fun. And not for everybody.
So if you're doing that, knock it off.
Stop it right now.
Uncle Nick.
Stop, Whitney's mom. Anyway, as we wrap up the show, we want to remind you can go sign up at patreon.com/therapy, and you can get the extended show ad-free a day earlier and enjoy our live chat Discord community and our weekly deep dives, interviews, skill shares, research roundups, and rants. And as a reminder, you get that extra episode, or this episode, but the extended one a day earlier, through the same app that you're using right now. Once you go and sign up, we give you a little code. You pump that into your app, into the settings menu. It's very simple, and it's built for it. And so you don't even have to switch things around. Not intimidating. So easy, and Nick could figure it out. He could figure it out.
He hasn't, but he could.
I haven't. I did a deep dive this week on 10 tips to becoming an effective supervisor.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I know the title is misleading because you're going to look at that and you're like, but I'm not a clinician and I don't want to learn all this stuff, so I'm not going to listen to this. No, this is to be a supervisor for anything.
Yes.
Not just for a clinical supervisor.
Supervise a lot of things.
Exactly. If you want to be the shift manager at McDonald's, these tips will help you.
Yeah.
That's the move.
All right.
Yeah, I think you get free fries.
So it's not to be a clinical supervisor, or it is for that too.
It would work for that.
Okay.
It's actually
So what I
specifically
did-
not for clinical
I know.
supervisors.
What I did was I just kind of took some ideas, some things that I've learned in leadership positions, both as a clinical supervisor, also as an executive director, and just things about like how to be a good leader. What are some do's and do nots?
Okay.
Essentially.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Do wear pants.
Do wear pants.
No, surprisingly, no.
The power move is the
that
kilt.
was on the do not.
Yeah, the power move is the kilt. You
Yes.
show up in that, and it's like, oh shit, this guy's definitely the boss.
Yep.
And then you just go full basic instinct. Spinning in the chair.
Yeah.
They know. Everybody's watching.
And
Slow-mo.
always, when you're referring to somebody in their position, when you refer to the position, the role that they play, always use air quotes.
Yeah.
This is Jim. He's a therapist.
Therapist.
With
This is
air
Nick.
quotes.
He's the director.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. This is Officer John, and he's here to take me away.
This is Whitney. She's the hot one.
We want to thank all the Patreons who support the show at patreon.com/therapy. We got some new friends to add to the group.
Yay! Chelsea.
We got a new therapal, James.
Sounds good.
James.
Thanks, James.
James. Oh, and a new therapod, Gin Duck.
That's awesome.
And Okie Scoop is now a pterodactyl.
Yay!
Welcome. Promotion. And we want to thank the benevolent, revered, generous, and flagrantly pro therapy diehards who love you all so much that they give till it hurts. The
Wow.
Therapartners.
And you
Thank
just
you.
put a chat GPT.
Dirty
Don't encourage
B, Myra.
Hey, that's
and
working
Pickett.
smarter.
And we want to thank our bosses, the mysterious and shrouded Illuminati members of the fan club, the Thera producers. Thank you, Jake Schneider, Robert Brownie, Jr. Mint, Smitty Scoop, Ben Dawn, Judy Schneider, Kayla Lansbury, Mrs. and Mr. Hot Dog Scoop, Malia, who also gave us back our website, by the way. We own podtherapy.com.
Thank you.
I haven't pointed it toward anything yet, but I think I technically have it now. So thank you for that.
For now.
After it was held hostage for like 3 years. Malia emailed me. She's like, I fucking forgot I still had this. Here you go. I meant to give it back to you. Leon Kassab, Mason Miller, Richard Macy, Carolyn Albert, Kevin Chamberlain, Tess Miller. Thank you for the letter. Sammy Scoop, Ben Stanley, Slap in Your Face, Sarah Smith, Adam Hathaway, Byler T, University Jeff, Mike Helm, Paris, Samantha Cohn, Darren Cunningham, Lib, Team Monaco, Thunder, Cougar, Falcon, Scoop, Matt and Lisa Tangeman, Heyo, Oscar Swanrose, A Sunny Boy, Slurpy Kaye, motherfucker, Sandra McWaffle, Dan Martin, and Hannah Marie.
And if you'd like to hear this episode uncut and unedited,
And why wouldn't you?
and enjoy our spontaneous side projects, go to
That's adorable.
patreon.com/therapy. And thank you for supporting mental health.
That's all the time we got for this week's session. I want to thank our landlords, Matt Mattingly's Ice Cream Social Podcast. And thanks to all of you who contributed to our show today. We really appreciate it. Remember, Pod Therapy isn't something to keep all to yourself. Share this episode. Tag us on the socials when you do. It's at PodTherapyGuys on Instagram, Threads, Twitter, and it's /PodTherapy on Facebook. And don't forget about the extra goodies at patreon.com/therapy.
And if you want to submit a question to the show, you can ask anonymously at podtherapy.net or email us at podtherapyguys@gmail.com. I'm Nick Tangeman.
I'm Jim.
I'm Whitney.
Thanks, and we'll see you for your appointment next week.
I'm John Hughes.
Yeah, one more
Brought
question.
to you by
Here we go.
John Hughes.
Okay, here we go. Which of these films has the most recent release date?